Hello, welcome back everyone to the Family Entrepreneur Life live show. I'm your host, Ariana. I've got an extra person here with me today, and we are so excited to introduce our guests to you today. We've got Shane and Jocelyn Sams from Flipped Lifestyle, and if you haven't seen their bio, Shane and Jocelyn are the dynamic duo at Flip Lifestyle. They are a real couple making their entire living selling digital products online through membership websites. They are former teachers, and they built a business that allowed them to quit their day jobs, spend more time with their family, and earn passive income online. They now generate hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in profit while only working about 10 to 15 hours per week. Their mission in life is to help other families build and grow successful online businesses through their Flip Lifestyle podcast, their community, and their blog. So welcome. We're so excited to have you guys here with us today.
Long time no see, my friends. Long time no see. I think, when did we see you last? Like February or something like that? Like in Dallas,
it was
I think?
at Funnel Hacking Live.
Yep.
Well, thank you for having us.
We're so excited.
I gotta say, I'm a little jealous of the view right now.
That's my backyard, bro.
We do have wine.
That's yeah, I know, right? It's a little early for wine around here.
Wine too.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell us all, I mean, you guys have kind of a long story. So just give us a little bit of tell everyone your family dynamic. First of all, I know you guys have 2 kids like we do. And then just a little bit of how you got started. What was the beginning of your story?
Sure. So we have 2 little kids. Isaac is 8 and Anna, well, he's almost 9. He'll be 9 in like a month. And then Anna Joe is 6. And we are actually former school teachers. We used to do, I was a football coach. I coached college football for a while, but then that grind kind of started wearing us down, right? So we decided, hey, let's go into education. Let's do something that's a little more, what would you say, normal, I guess.
Yeah, just had some breaks. I mean, we never had breaks before.
Yeah, right. So we always joke, like we lived in this house when I was coaching at West Virginia University, and I don't remember what the inside looks like, because I was never there and Jocelyn was always on the road. So people would be like, hey, how's married life? And we'd be like, I don't know. We never see each other because we work so much. So we got into education, and I taught social studies. Jocelyn was a librarian. And, we had a good life. It was kind of, good enough. You know what I mean?
We always say we were happy enough.
Happy enough. We 2.2 kids, 2.2 cars, all that nonsense that you learn. The American dream, which was a really cloudy, fuzzy dream now looking back on it that we never should have went after. But what happened was, we were just going through life, and we had a couple of experiences that were really, really bad. Like I was a really hard worker, good employee, the model employee, always showed up for work, everything. And the school that I was the football coach at consolidated with another high school. Well, when you have 2 schools, you have 2 football coaches. When you have one school, you have 1 football coach. So I kind of lost my job, for like out of total, nothing I did wrong. Everything was right. I did everything I was supposed to do, what the world said to do. Lost my job. So that was kind of the first like crack in the perfect life we had, whatever. Then we went to another school, worked there for a while, and it was a real corporate prison environment, a machine. And so that kind of grated against me, but it was a paycheck. You had insurance, all that stuff they tell you got to have, right? And what actually happened was Jocelyn and I found out that our son was being mistreated in a daycare center. We're just like everybody else, working 9 to 5, put our kid in a daycare, had to make sure to get to work. And we found out that Isaac was being locked in a dark bathroom for like 3 and 4 hours at a time. And they were mistreating other kids like in the facility. And this kind of all came to a head one morning. And I went to see my boss to ask off to go help, figure this out and sort this out. And my boss basically told me, no, you work for the school and we need you here, and we don't have time to deal with this. If your child's
not dying or in the hospital, then
is your child in immediate danger? Then you can't go. So I remember being furious in that moment at myself that I had basically sold my life away for a little bit of security, a little bit of insurance, a steady paycheck. We would never starve. That's what we had traded our entire freedom away for. And it was really just like I felt like a slave. And so I started looking for something else and didn't know how I was going to do it. But you know, we stumbled onto online business and made a lot of money.
And the rest is history.
But the rest is history, and work very few hours to do it. So, yeah.
So Shane, I just want to hit on something you said that I think a lot of people miss. But when you went and asked for that time off and you were furious, most people would say they were furious at their employer or furious at someone else. The thing I heard you say, which is so critical, is that you were furious at yourself. Yeah. And you were mad at yourself for letting yourself be in that situation. And I think that's one of the big things. I mean, that's a big part of why you guys are successful, is because you took ownership of that. And, you know, I know a little bit more of your story. We spent some time together, and you basically said, I'm not going to let somebody else control our lives. Like, we're going to go and control our lives.
Right. The hard part is figuring out how to control your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, I remember I would always drive around with Jocelyn. Like, after this happened, you know, it's not like we just like flipped the switch, flipped them off, and double birded them and quit our job, walked out.
That's
what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? But like, we were driving around town one day, and I told Jocelyn, I said, we can't go on like this. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something different. And I remember looking over at Jocelyn and saying, I wonder if I could get 100 people to send me $50.
And I'm like,
okay,
well, that sounds nice, but you know, like, what are you going to do to make that happen?
I'm like, I don't know, but there's 7 billion people on the planet. Surely I can convince 100 of them to send me $50. And if I could do that, I would make $5,000. And if I could do that every month, I could make $60,000 in a year. I said, heck, maybe we can live on $60,000. You know what I mean? And, but like, I didn't really know how to do that, but I did know that I had to go figure it out. Nobody was going to save us. Like you said, it was all our responsibility, because like Jocelyn and I are big believers in like control what you can control. And if you can't control it, then go find something else and control that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we started looking around, and I was listening to a podcast one day and heard about a guy who was selling PDFs for $50 online. And I said, what? Wait, what? And I rewound it, listened again. Dude was selling PDFs and made $9,000. And I'm like, stop the brakes, run inside. To Jocelyn, I figured out how I'm going to get 100 people. Yeah, I was on a lawnmower. I was listening to Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income podcast, and rewound it, listened again, hit the brakes, ran inside, said, I figured this is it. This is how we're going to get 100 people to give us $50. We're going to sell them stuff we know. And but it was like, it's like you said, man, we just took control. We started looking for another way, because if you never do that, you'll never find another way. And then when we found a way that looked good, it didn't matter. I could have found something else. I could have found real estate. I could have found merchandising. I could have found anything. But when I found the thing that I thought would work, we attacked it and we went and made it happen. So, but you're right. It all starts with your decisions, basically.
Yeah. So when you heard that podcast and you ran inside, what was your next steps? What did you both do after that?
Jocelyn ignored me. Totally.
I pretty much thought he was nuts.
Yep. Shane, I know the feeling.
That's pretty regular around here. Like, you know, Shane has some crazy idea, and I'm like, yeah, that'll never work. So that is pretty much how it started. Shane was determined that he was going to convince me. So I'm a person who I need to be convinced of things. Like, I don't just believe things immediately. Right. So yeah, I feel you. So basically, he was like, okay, I'm going to learn all the things about online business. So he started reading books. He started listening to podcasts. He started, watching reading videos, stuff online. And basically, he would tell me about it because that's what he does.
I'm a talker.
And
I'm a bit of a talker.
No.
Yeah.
I know. You're shocked.
Shocked, right? If you've ever heard our podcast, you know this.
Yeah. So he basically was like, okay, he would tell me bits and pieces. And, I'm also someone who likes to learn things. So I'm kind of like picking up on this and being like, that's interesting.
But literally nothing is happening when this is going on. Like, nothing's working. Like, I seriously tried all this stuff. It's like when you work as a couple, like Jocelyn and I are literal 50-50 business partners. Like, there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who maybe one person's the entrepreneur and one has the 9-to-5. Or a lot of times what we see too is maybe even the male is working and the wife is a more homemaker role, which is awesome.
Or I don't care. Support role, which is cool.
It doesn't matter. You choose how you want to live. But in our world, that doesn't work. Like, Jocelyn and I are literally 50-50 partners. And I knew that if I didn't convince her that it worked, it would never work, because we're either all in it to win it together or we don't do it. Right.
Well, and each of us, we have different skill sets. So like, Shane was never going to make it happen all on his own. I would never make it happen all on my own. Like, we had to work together. So,
and we had learned that over marriage and dating, and that we were just better off doing it together.
Life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So he was trying to convince me that this was going to work, and I'm like, okay, show me some money. Like, if you can show me that someone is paying for this, then I might believe you.
Yeah. So, and I tried to play the podcast while she was in the car, and I was telling her, look at these people, and she's like, no, she kept saying, you've got to do it. So I tried this. Like, I grinded, man, for like 3 straight months trying to do anything, all the nonsense we all try to get into.
So that was like the big SEO days.
Yeah, we tried SEO, we tried affiliate things, I'll get into somebody else's affiliate launch, or I'll try to launch something. Well, I figured out you can't launch something without humans that will buy things. So that's stupid. Right. So all this nonsense that all the gurus were teaching wasn't working. Right. So, but I knew I had to keep trying what they were doing because I didn't know exactly what to do, So what I did was finally, I said, okay, what's the common denominator from these people making money? They're making content. That's what I figured out early on, that they're putting content out in the world and then somehow they're getting money back. So that's what I focused on. And what I started doing was I started putting U.S. history worksheets, because I was a history teacher, online. And I just started putting everyone I could online for free, and I was trying to SEO it and make Google find these things like Abraham Lincoln worksheet, whatever. And then I just surrounded it with as much spam as possible, like hoping that someone would accidentally click a button and give me money, right? And so I did all this, and it was just failing miserably, and my site was getting no traffic. And I remember one night I was literally laying in bed. It was probably close to midnight. Jocelyn was reading a book on her side, and I was laying there with, how you lay there all depressed with your computer on your chest and you're barely even using it. We've all been there, right? And I started looking at my analytics, and nothing was happening. It was big goose eggs, and I said, "This is stupid. I got to quit. I'm going to have to go mow yards or something. Surely somebody will give me $50 to mow a yard. Whatever. Just manual labor. That's where I was going." So I went to the bathroom, brushed my teeth, and I went back. And I remember walking through the door and saying, "God, are these people scammers? Are these people real? Like, if this is real, could you please just give me a sign? Because I'm done. Like, I just can't take it anymore." And that's kind of where we find people do that, around that 3-month mark. If you're not making it, we get impatient. So right before bed, I was like, I'm gonna check one more time. Miraculously, I hit refresh, and when the screen reloaded, it was 0 and it said 11 cents. It literally at that moment had updated the analytics, and it said 11 cents. And I almost threw my laptop across the room, jumped up beside the bed, started pumping my fist and screaming and hollering. Jocelyn looks over her book like, "Why did I marry you?" And then like I opened the computer and I showed it to her, and I said, "There it is. I made something, and somebody sent me money back. I don't know why. I don't know how. I don't know where, who they are, but we just made money off a stranger on the internet. And if we can get one person to give us 11 cents, maybe we can get 1,000 people to give us 11 cents, maybe $11. And that's when Jocelyn kind of said, "Wait a minute, I can do this." So, yeah.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, you said it right. A lot of entrepreneurs, there's one person that's the entrepreneur, one person that, isn't interested or, needs proof. Yeah. And I look at, what I had to do for Ariana, it was a lot of the same type of stuff. Like, we had 2 offline businesses, and she was kind of half in just because she knew I couldn't do it on my own. And there was a lot of stuff I was dropping. But actually coming to the event with you guys was a big changing point for her, because as we started shifting online, she's like, "Well, I don't get it. We're looking at these different people." And I said, "Look, here's another couple that is very similar to us. They're both working in their business. They're both playing different roles." And, to your point, a lot of times people look online and they think a lot of it's scam. But I mean, right. What's beautiful about you guys and a lot of the other people that we're connected with now is that, no, we're all real people that, as you said, have figured out what are those different pieces that when you all put them together can actually build a viable business.
Remember when you said Shane tried to put podcasts on in the car? Did that to me with one of your podcasts.
Good choice.
That's what I'm talking about.
When we were going somewhere, he's like, "Listen, I know you really don't like podcasts, but like you have to listen to this one." And we were going somewhere, and it was a long drive, and I'm like, "Okay,
perfect setup."
But after 10 minutes, if I can,
perfect. You're captive market.
And it was one of your podcasts, and I was like, "Oh, these guys are funny." Okay, so we listened, and it was it was another step closer into my acceptance of the online.
Exactly.
Well, for me, it was tough.
I remember the one time I kind of I think the one of the parts that started making her crack a little bit was we were coming back from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and I was listening to podcasts, and we hit a detour. You remember when we had to go through Jellicoe, and we had to go like a hour and a half detour around these mountains and streams and podunk nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And but I remember I just played podcasts the whole time, and I was sitting there thinking the whole time, yes, a detour. Like everybody else is like, oh, a detour. I'm like, no, she can't get out of the car for 2 more hours. I got her. She's here. So yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Just have to shake your head.
Exactly.
Sometimes I still do.
Sometimes, all the time.
Daily.
Yeah.
Daily.
Oh my goodness. So after you started your U.S. history site, Jocelyn, when did you start your librarian site?
So this was in June of 2012. So the incident with our son happened in March of 2012. And in June of 2012, Shane pretty much like forced me to buy elementarylibrarian.com.
No, I bought it for you after we made 11 cents. And I said, here, I bought you a domain.
Well, okay. So at that point, I was like, okay, well, I will reluctantly agree, but only if I can do something that will benefit me in my real life. Because if it doesn't work out, then I don't want to waste all this time creating stuff that has no impact on my life, because that's just who I am. So I decided, okay, I need lesson plans for my library. I'm going to make some lesson plans. And I knew what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it online. So I was like, okay, if I need these types of lesson plans, then probably other people do too. So I decided to start making some lesson plans. And that is how I got started on Elementary Librarian.
And that's important too, because like that, I think that was something that we discovered early on. Like we tried to do it the guru's way. And then we realized that the gurus weren't really out for us. They were out for us to become affiliates for their products. They were out to just talk about what they were doing so that we would buy their stuff and not selling. They weren't really selling anything. And we started thinking, well, what real people should do is, what do you already know? What do you already do? That's where your products come from. Like you said, you guys you have your real world business. Well, then you would make products about your real world, what you do in your real world business. If you're a real estate agent and you live in a rural area, you should teach other people how to sell real estate in a rural area. She was a librarian. I was a teacher. I was a football coach. We made playbooks. So that we were really fortunate. I think that we figured that out early, was go with what you know. And that's why ultimately I think we were successful, because we didn't fall into that trap, of, well, I can't figure out what I want to do, so I'll just sell this other person's affiliate product.
Yeah, we didn't have to depend on other people. We didn't depend on other platforms like, AdWords. People made hundreds of thousands of dollars in AdWords around the time we were starting, but then Google makes changes and your whole business crashes, Yeah. So we didn't depend on that. We depended on ourselves. And
also too, you see a lot of people are like, oh, you hear and I'm not I'll try not to disrespect anybody, like Gary Vee and all them. Some people they jam on 80-hour work weeks and passive income's not real. We didn't know any better, and we just thought of everything we did was passively. We said, okay, well, if we're going to make it off of our lesson plans or our playbooks or knowing how to raise goldfish or whatever we're going to sell, how do we put that in automation? How do we market that in an automated way? And we've just always built our business passively from the beginning and on stuff that we already know. So I think that created a lifestyle from the beginning. We call it the flip lifestyle, but I think that just created that in our mindset. We, even now in our business meetings, it's like, okay, here's our rules. We are not going to work more than 15 hours a week and 20 hours in a sprint. How do we make $1 million doing that? If you start from there, you can do it. But if you start from the mindset of it's not real, woe is me, it always works for them, but not for us, then you're not gonna make it. So
well, and that's something that honestly we talk about a lot, because we came from the offline world and everything's done just a little bit differently there. And then when we came into the online space, you talked about it, just the hustling constantly, working 80-hour weeks, following what everyone else is doing, being affiliates for all these things and trying to make passive income, but not really looking at the amount of work it takes on the back end to continue getting all of that passive income, instead of doing what you guys have done and sort of building the business always around the kind of life that you want to have. So you chose a business model that you could fit to your lifestyle, and you don't have to work 80 hours a week. You don't even have to work 40 hours a week. So, there's all these people out there that are trying so hard to follow the paths that other people have done, when it's really more about kind of taking in all of the information and then customizing it to you and your business and the way that you ultimately want to live your life. I mean, I know we all work a lot in the first couple years usually, but there's going to come a time when you can kind of fit your business into your life.
Well, I was going to say, so we end up coming up with a lot of our ideas just when we're having random conversations and we kind of go down these rabbit holes. And one of the days we were talking, and I don't know, probably Ariana, when she was on a rant, she was like, why can't, it's just like your life. Why can't you just build the business that supports your life? And I'm like, well, that's it. And so what we tell people now is just like your life, your business, your way. So yeah, learn what's out there. And as you said, learn the things that work, but then make sure that it's working for you and the life you want to build, which is why I love, the message that you guys share.
Yeah. We just had, like, we always start there first. Like, even when we started out, like the grind at the beginning comes because you're working full time somewhere else. Yeah. That's where the grind comes from. But the problem is, like, we were both working full time jobs, 40 hours a week. I was coaching football. There's another 30 hours a week. And then on top of that, after we basically started doing those things, we did the online business at night. We were working the 70, 80 hour grind until we quit. Did right then was place all that time. I don't have to scale to billions of dollars. We literally, our calendar, put the things we want to do first.
Yep.
We write down in our budget what we would say, what would our life be if we were content and happy in what we really wanted? Why do we have to grind and scale past that? We don't.
And we do have to pull that back sometimes. Like, there are times that you look at what other people are doing and you're like, oh, that's really good. Like, we should do that. And then we start asking ourselves, okay, do we really want that though?
Yeah, that's the most important question.
Like, we're very ambitious people, so we want to do bigger and better things, but then we're kind of like, but at what cost? Like, is it worth it?
Yeah. So, like, one of the things we always start our business meetings with, especially for new ideas, is what do we want? We just had our chief of staff. We have a chief of staff who manages our team for us. She flew in for like 2 days, and we went through our entire calendar for next year. It started out this big list. We had all this ambition, all these things we wanted to do. And then probably the second day, about halfway through the day, we just sat back and we're like, do we really want to do that? And we said no. And we started scratching things off. And like everyone else is adding things on. I'm like, yeah, but if we do that, we can't go on a Disney cruise. And if we travel here, then we can't travel there. And if I'm, constantly preparing webinars here, then I can't spend time at my kid's soccer game here. It's stupid. So we have basically got it down to the only things that we're going to focus on in 2018 are our podcast, our sales webinars, and our community. We're not going to seek out even opportunities like this. We're not going to go try to run the podcast circuit. We're not going to try to speak. We started scratching those things off because it just didn't fit with the life that we want. Would all those things make us a ton more money? Maybe. But I know what they would cost us, and that's a ton of time with each other and our kids. So we just said, screw it. We're not doing it. That's not what we want. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned, your calendar, and then you mentioned your budget. And I know for a lot of entrepreneurs, like, those aren't sexy topics, right? Everyone wants to talk about like sales funnels or all this other stuff. But I'm curious as to how you guys have found, your calendar and your budget and how you use those to build the business that you're looking to build to support the life that you want.
You do calendar because I'm not.
Yeah, so we are pretty much slaves to a calendar. The reason for that is yes, because if you're not,
and what she means is I'm her slave to her calendar.
Exactly,
because she writes down what happens.
But if we're not, then we miss out on the opportunities to do things with our family that we might have had. If I don't put on my calendar, go to Isaac's soccer game, or the things that are really important to me,
you put them on first too.
We'll fill them up with other things, so we are very, very careful about our time. Money's something you can always make more of. You can't make more time. So it's really, really important to us to really spend the 168 hours that everyone on earth is given. We need to spend them in the appropriate way for us.
Yeah. So like we have 168 hours a week. We plan 1 week at a time. We've got goals and things on the calendar ahead of time, but we really focus on the next 168 hours. And like Jocelyn said, the first thing we put on are non-negotiables. We're going to be asleep. We all have doctor's appointments and crap, that we have to do. Then we look at the kids' calendars, which is in red on our Google calendars, and we share a calendar. We're all linked together.
I'm pretty sure it's blue, actually.
Is the kids?
Oh yeah. Shane is colorblind, so he has no idea.
I thought mine was blue, and maybe it's on yours. It's red.
That's
what
they're
it
probably
is.
Different.
Yeah, mine's red on the kids' calendar. But anyway, the kids' activities. No, I might have not. Yeah, I could be pink for all I know. the kids do like their activities first. Then Jocelyn and I will like look at things for us. Like about every other week or two, we go like we get out of town. We run to Knoxville or something and go get massages or whatever, self-care stuff. You know what I mean? We look at our stuff next, and then we start planning around work and things like that. We got times blocked off for certain things, and but we figured out that that's your priority list, really. Like we all have to-do lists. Like you got a dry erase board back there. You write all that. We do too. All that stuff's important. But if it doesn't make your calendar, you don't really care about it.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So the calendar is the first thing. Money-wise, I do the budgets and Jocelyn does the bills. That's kind of how we break it up. Like we do Profit First, which is a great book by Mike McAllowitz. If nobody's read that book, you need to read that in the Pumpkin Plan. It'll change your life right now. But that we do Profit First. So I handle the macro, like the big stuff. And I look at how we're kind of, I think, investing and doing the big picture stuff.
And he looks at all the tax stuff.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Like the higher level finance stuff. And I do the more day-to-day stuff.
She makes sure our lights stay on. We have health insurance.
all those little things.
All that good stuff. The things that you need, quote unquote. So
that sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Well, and I love the fact that you said it's a priority list, and the way that you walk through the time and then the budget. And what we find with a lot of people, when they first hear those words, they hear like constraining, like this is telling us we can't do it if we have to put it on our calendar.
It's freeing.
Or if we have to do a budget. But exactly, once you do it and you're saying this is like we're being intentional about where we're spending our time and where we're spending our money, then you've got so much more freedom to be able to then operate within that and then to even grow that more.
Well, here's the deal. This is how I can tell you exactly how important it is in our life. We dedicate an entire day every week to finances on Thursdays. Profit first, paying the bills. We do credit card points, so we pay it off every week because debt is bad, right? Then we dedicate another whole day to planning. On Monday is our calendar and planning day, and then we take the rest of that afternoon off because it's just like cutting down a tree. You're going to sharpen your axe before you start swinging. So every single week, we're like, what does the next 168 hours look like? And then we're even intentional about when we do it. Like we do it on Monday because we want Mondays to be awesome. So if we have a plan and then we take the afternoon off, every week starts great. And we do our finances on Thursday because I look at our last 4 weeks every week. And if I see a trend, I can react on Friday before the weekend. So it's before our kids are around and before we have to deal with stress and all that. So we've even planned like our mental space around those 2 days because that's the lifeblood of your business is how you're spending your time and your money. And if you don't focus on that, if you're constantly trying to set up a ClickFunnels or a lead page or a webinar jam or whatever you're doing, then you're missing the point. You're not going to keep any of the stuff you make, basically.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it's hard. That shiny object syndrome is just so enticing for people to fall into the trap of trying to do all the things when it's really the most important thing is to simplify it down.
Yes.
And the planning, the finances, and then having those larger goals that you're working towards are 3 of the simplest things that you can put in place early on when you're starting. And if you have consistent time to go back and keep doing those things, you're basically setting yourself up for success early on. But so many people skip over that part.
I know.
And then they get, 3 months in and they hit that depression point. Why is this not working? Why is nothing that I'm trying to do actually getting me any money? And if they had kind of started off with those 3 simple things, that 3-month depression may not have hit because they actually would be seeing some traction rather than ping-ponging all over the place and trying to listen to all of the people and take all the free content and do everything that everyone out there tells you to do when you really don't need to do all that stuff. Even me, I still get caught in that. And I know in my head, I'm like, oh, do I really need to be doing this? And I have to ask myself that question daily. Is this something that's important for me to be doing right now?
Well, I was going to say, and you guys plan weekly, and so much of why I love what you guys do is because your philosophies are so similar to us. So we do the same thing. We plan weekly. And what I've found is that that's our kind of check back in. So maybe we got a little derailed. Maybe something new popped up during the week that we liked. But then when we come back and when we reflect on the week and we talk about that item, it's like, is this something that's going to get us to our goals and let us do that? If the answer is no, then it's a pretty quick filter to say we're not going to do that. And let's get back to what we said we're going to focus on.
Jocelyn she even puts flex time in our calendar. Like she blocks off times for when we've gotten derailed and didn't finish things. Like that's how intentional she is, you know?
Yeah, but I think that what you're saying, I agree with you. I think that having strong goals and where you want to go is really important. And I think also limiting those goals. You know, if you have 67 goals, then whatever the shiny object is, you're going to find a way for it to match one of those goals, right. You know? But if you have like 3 goals or 5 goals, you know, then it's easy to say, well, I'm going to have to put this on the back burner. Like, I mean, we're entrepreneurs too. Like we find things all the time. Like, okay, just like 2 weeks ago was our 4-year anniversary of quitting our jobs, which is awesome. But on that morning, I was just like sitting around and I like something just popped in my head and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I went and registered a domain because that's what we do.
Yeah, that's still there. That you have to allow yourself a little
like
indulgence.
That never goes away.
Right.
But like I'm looking at it right now and I'm like, man, I would love to work on that, but I can't because it doesn't match these goals that we've established for right now.
Right.
So I'm just putting it on the back burner, you know.
Well,
and I think that's like a maturity thing. I think is from being an entrepreneur, like you have to learn. Okay, I have to push pause on this.
Yeah.
Like I can't run full speed ahead with every single thing.
And another thing that entrepreneurs on that don't realize is. And this is something that does come from experience, but gosh, I always tell people, if you can latch on to this principle from the day you start, you will make way more money than we've ever made. You'll have more time than we've ever had. You'll do better than we ever could have done. There's more than one path. You don't have to, like everyone, all the gurus are so hardcore, like my way is the way you launch and my way is this and all this crap. And then you try 10 different things and, you know, the serial entrepreneur, that's a bunch of crap too, by the way. But like, well, here's the thing. Any path you pick will work if you pick it and go for it. And if you just do this one, even if it fails monetarily, you've learned all the crap. So the next time you do an idea, the next one thing, you'll just be able to go all in on it faster and it'll work faster. And you just got to like decide on something and do it. That was my problem. I think why it took me so long to figure out how to do anything was I was trying 19 different strategies. Just pick a strategy. It doesn't matter. You want to buy apartments? You want to invest in real estate, or do you want to buy single family homes? It don't matter. You want to leverage money, or do you want to use cash? It don't matter. Just do it. Just do something.
Yeah, and you know, the important thing that I think a lot of people get caught into is that, you know, pick a path and go with it, but then you want to set the checkpoints along the way to check in to say, is this progressing or do I have to make an adjustment?
Or am I working on it? That's another big thing. Like, because when you get to the end of the week, like you said, your task list and stuff, I actually delete my entire inbox every Friday, no matter what. Anything I didn't get to wasn't important. That's the way I look at it. And if it is important, they'll email me back. And like what you're saying is exactly that. Like, you'll know if it's actually what you want because you won't do it. You'll dread it and you'll skip over it.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of people find is they either spend way too much time doing the thing that didn't work and they don't reflect and make adjustments, or they don't give it enough time and every single week they want to try something different. So as you said, pick a path, go for it, and then see what's working, what's not, and make those tweaks and you'll figure it out.
That's another reason why you've got to get around people. Like when we were really alone the first 6 months, probably.
Well, we live in the middle of nowhere, first of all.
Yeah, I mean, we live in the middle of Southeast Kentucky in the mountains.
Not a lot of online entrepreneurs.
We barely have internet in Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the fact that we're even talking to you right now is a miracle of God. You know what I mean? So, like, but like, we just were really, really alone. And I think the thing that propelled us fastest, the accelerator, was when we paid for a trip and we went to a live event and we met other entrepreneurs. We met Jill and Josh, you know, at this live event. We met Jessica and Cliff LaRue. We met a lot of good people that were really doing it. And not only did that inspire us, but we got the right advice. I can't ask anybody around here for advice. You know what I'm saying? Like listen, there's some very successful real world businesses. That's different than what we do. And like, so we surrounded ourselves with some people to help bounce things off of, to look at those checkpoints with us and say, is this working? And that's why we started Flip Lifestyle, because when we started helping other people around us do what we did, we realized that was the gas. That was the gas on the fire, is when you surround yourself with good people, when you meet the right people, when you get rid of the people that aren't helping you go forward, and you surround yourself with your 5 people you want to average out to. Yeah. That's really what our community does. That's what we've discovered is the biggest help in growing your business.
Yeah.
And you can surround yourself with the wrong people too. Like if you listen, I surrounded myself at one point with a bunch of grinders that were working 80 hours a week. And I came back and Jocelyn was like, "What are you doing?"
Well, yeah, he calls me and he's like, "Okay, they said we need to work each of us need to work 40 hours." And I'm like, "No, that's not who we are.
That's not what we want. I want to work 20.
He got mad at me. He hung up on me. I'm like, okay.
But these were people. Some of these people were like single, didn't have the same values, or even couples that didn't have kids. Like that's there's goodness in that, and you can learn from everyone. I don't care where you are, who you are, but like we've figured out that we've got to surround ourselves with people in our life journey, kind of where we are, and that's really the people we're called to help too. Is the people with kids, the people grinding who want to get out, but even entrepreneurs with children and stuff. It makes more sense when you're going through the same things in life, not just the same things in business.
Yeah, and I mean that's the whole reason we created this community, because when you see entrepreneurs out there, what so many people miss is that, well, hey, that person's single, and guess what? Their path's going to look very different than yours. Or as you said, even people without kids, it's going to be very different. And that was the big thing that we wanted, was to build more of the people and build that community of everyone that's in that type of situation, so that we can all support and help each other. Even though our paths are all going to be different, we've got a lot of the same values and a lot of the same commonalities.
Yeah. And even just the spouses, I get a lot of people that talk to me, and they don't realize how long it took for me to actually be like 100% in the business, because it just happened like this year.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, and it's interesting with you guys, because obviously Shane and I are more the dominant personalities. And, you've got you and Jocelyn that are kind of more on the back end, but you guys are so important. And what's been cool, I think, for both of you guys is seeing you guys kind of step into your roles over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it took a while, like we are both, we're both people who are, I think, we're sort of visionary people in different ways, but I think it's been hard because, I have a need to control things, and, Shane's not someone who can be easily controlled. And so, yeah, so that's the thing, is like, we have learned, and, we've gotten better at dividing up what we do. And, are we 100% there yet? No. But, we're getting better at it 5 years in. So, yeah, definitely.
It's all process, man. And like, it's even weird, like anybody can do this, and all of our life situations need to line up. But like, you just have to be really careful who you're taking advice from, because, if someone comes up to you and they're like, "Oh man, I can make online money, but then go to Thailand and live for $8 a day." And I'm like, "Yeah, I got kids in school. Can't do that. I can't." That's that you got to be careful, because what they're doing in their business is going to work. But like, even for us, like, it's really good to find couples that are working together, because that's even a different dynamic. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And there's just so many things you've got to be careful. The ultimate filter is yourself and what you want. And that sounds selfish, but that really is it. And you're only picking and choosing what can help you do that. If you try to help everybody and listen to everybody, and it doesn't matter what's working for anybody else, it's what works for you and your couple and your family to make it happen.
And honestly, that's why we talk about that, because I remember how hard it was for me to mentally understand what this lifestyle was, what he was talking about half the time. It took so long for me to accept, because I didn't actually know what he was thinking and why this was so important. So, when we talk to people and we commonly see my spouse doesn't really support my business or my plan to become an entrepreneur, or they absolutely have no idea what I'm talking about, and so I just don't talk to them about my business. And so that's a lot of what we often talk about is, hey, it's a big change. Like, it was a 180 turn when he all of a sudden out of the blue was like, "Oh yeah, I want to buy a house, and we're going to become landlords, and we're going to spend."
that's what I'm doing now. Actually, it's funny you say that. I've been doing that myself lately.
Yeah, and I totally don't get it still. But.
Right. Right? It takes a little while for us I don't even know what you want to call yourself. And
we had to add a course in our membership. We have an actual course in our Flip Your Life community called How to Get Your Spouse on Board with Your Online Dreams, because, and it's like the second course we make people take. Like, everyone wants to jump in and like create an avatar and make their product and start their website. We're like, no, the first thing you're going to do is set your goals of what your life should look like to your husband or wife. Like, those are the two first things we make people do, because we realized in our journey, if those two things didn't click, it ain't going to happen. If you're married and you got kids and you try to do this on your own, you are going to fail. You got to get your spouse at least in the ballpark of, I accept this.
Exactly. Being okay with it. You do the work and I'll just watch.
Yeah, you go do whatever you want to do, but yeah.
Well, and for everyone watching this or listening, like, those are key points, right? Like, it's very simple. When you start, don't dive into the business, or if you get an idea, like, put it on ice for a little bit and look at where do you want to be, where are you going to start at? And then, as you guys said, that time and money. And once you get some of that figured out, and especially if you can get on board with your spouse and get aligned, then doing the business stuff is so much easier, because you're not constantly having to run up against a brick wall or having to constantly say, well, no, we're not going to take all the money and invest it into this thing. Like, that is what I find causes so many people stress, is that not being on the same page and trying to move forward. Once you get that alignment, it makes everything else just so much easier.
We always say when you're me and Jocelyn spend a lot of time together, because we work together a lot of time. Like, all day, like,
it's wonderful.
But even with us being together like 24/7, like, we're not always on the same page, even now. And if you're trying to do this because what's going to happen is you're going to spend time on this, ignore your wife. You're going to spend time on this, ignore your husband, spend time on this, ignore there's going to be things that overtake it, and you're going to screw it up. You've at least got to be in the same chapter. That's a great goal for every marriage. Just be in the same chapter. Are you on page 10? I'm on page 7. Okay, let's just flip around here. But you're never going to be perfect on the same page all the time, but you got to be close, or it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree. I talk about it from my perspective all the time, because I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur for the longest time. I just saw myself as, I run the businesses. Tom was the idea man. He started the 2 offline businesses, and I was lucky enough to stay home with our child, so I ran them. I managed the office and made sure everything was doing as it should. And that was kind of my role at that time. So when we moved into the online space, everything just completely got flipped upside down. And we were trying to figure it out for so long. And I think the reason it took us so long to figure out was because I wasn't fully on board when we first jumped into the online space. Even when we came to the first live event and met you guys and everyone that was there, I still wasn't 100% on board.
I knew that too. Like, like when we hosted that live event in Tampa, when we hosted that live event, like, it was cool because we were excited because you were a couple that was coming, right? And we had multiple couples that week, actually. But we were like, but I knew it, because you could see, like, I could see Tom leaning forward, chomping at the bit. You were kind of sitting back, like, where am I? Who are these people? And why are we in an aquarium? This is weird. Like,
I love that part.
Yeah, right, exactly. You could totally see that. And I think that, like, the problem is, and this is something else that we've just figured out, I can't be the entrepreneur that she is. Like, she can't be the entrepreneur that I am. But I think there's a danger of comparing yourselves to each other, or thinking you've got it all figured out and you don't, And I think that's kind of what you guys might be struggling with. All couples struggle with that.
For the longest time, I compared myself to Tom all the time, because he has so much knowledge. And when we jumped in and we were doing the podcast and we were trying to teach people things, all I kept seeing was, I don't know as much as he does. I can't do the things he does. So I was constantly comparing myself to him.
When we first started out, Jocelyn, like, I tried months and months and months and made 11 cents. Jocelyn tried something and launched it like in 45 days and made $2,000. And I was like, oh, that's not fair. It's totally not fair. But like, that was it. Like, I do remember, like, thinking, dang, man, I'm the one who started this crap.
But the thing about it is, I would have never started it without you, though.
I know.
That never would have happened.
And then I would have never went on to figure out, she did what I originally planned, was make digital products. And I never did the thing. She actually followed through with the thing I said I was going to do. Wait a minute. She's on to something here, And then we launched other products and it worked. So
Yeah. Well, the key with that, I think, is, we're on the same team, and sometimes we forget that. But the important thing about being on a team is that you have a role. So you got to figure out what role you play. And then, Shane, you coach football, right? So everyone's got a role they're going to play. But depending on what happens in the play and in the game, you may shift and help out for a little bit.
Oh, so if somebody gets hurt, you got to go in for them.
Exactly.
It's the kind of deal.
So that's one of the big things we figured out is like, okay, well, what are your roles? What are my roles? And then depending on what's going on, I might have to shift over and help you, or you might have to shift over and help me. But it's those ongoing dynamics and having those conversations that really help you guys make sure that, hey, we are on the same team.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I think it was completely mindset. I did not have the mindset to be where we were. And I was actually going through a really tough time after having our son. He ended up having like 6 ear infections in 8 months. He wasn't sleeping. The breastfeeding thing was tough. It wasn't the same as when we had our daughter. And so not only did I not know who I was in the business, I didn't even know who I was in our life. So for us to be trying to do that, for me, it just did not click. It just did not connect. And it took a little while for him to notice, because I was so good at like pretending and putting the mom face on and, being okay, because that's what you're supposed to do. And when it finally fell apart and I just melted down completely, he was like, oh, okay, there's something not right here. We need to figure it out. And that's when we had the discussion that eventually started the ball rolling for our big brand change. And as soon as we figured out that one thing, which was I wasn't connecting with the old brand because I didn't feel comfortable, or I didn't feel that like important connection with who we were talking to and who we were becoming. As soon as we figured that out, it was like the light switch turned on, and all these things started happening. And I went and hired a sales coach, and I went and spoke to a mindset therapist, and everything just kind of started falling into place. And it's like, oh, that would have been a lot easier if I had just done that in the first place.
Well, and the thing I've learned through that whole thing, and I'm curious to hear you guys in your journey, I knew where I wanted to go, and I just kept pushing her on the things that I knew were going to get us there. But reflecting back, what would have made that 10 times easier was not focusing on what we needed to do to get there, but to step back and say, well, where is there anyways? And let's get on the same page, and then we'll work together. And once we got some of that stuff figured out, everything else has been a lot easier.
Yeah, I would say we're just starting to, I guess we've always known about the importance of the mindset piece, but we're really starting to connect that to our customers now. And just understanding where they are and what needs to happen in their mind to be able to even attempt this.
Yep.
We're starting to figure that piece out, because I feel like for us, for some reason, like the mindset changes, I think because we are so different and understand each other so well, like I think we're able to sort of like get each other on board with stuff like faster than most people do, maybe.
I think we just trust each other a lot. Like it's not. It's like you said, it's like, I think it's because we want the same things. I think that's really what it really boils down to.
Well, and that's how we started, just completely accidentally. Like we just said, okay, what are our goals? Like what do we really want? If you start with that, it's a lot easier.
I want. And then she says, what do I want? And then he says, what do I want? And then they write down their goals. And then there's never like reconciliation of like, well, that goal's great, but it conflicts with this goal. How can we come together or throw them away and come up with new goals?
But if you decide on your final destination, like it's a lot easier to come up with a route to get there.
Yeah.
If you have no idea where you're going, then you just drive around aimlessly.
Yeah. And we've even found in our marketing, like we've almost stopped teaching a lot of stuff because we used to teach
nuts and bolts
stuff because like
anymore.
Man, you don't need to know how to do an autoresponder if you don't even know if you're confident enough to even start.
If you're not even convinced that you can do this, then you don't need to be working on a website.
Yeah. Like we have an author who's writing a book right now about our journey, and she's been interviewing us and talking about it and things like that. And the more questions she asks us and the more we talk about what is going in here, nobody cares about the mechanics because anybody can learn the skills to do this. It's not hard.
Changes too, like what we used 5 years ago is different than what we use today. So
what they want to know is how did you find the time? Do I have the time to do this? Like, wait a minute, I'm broke. And I always tell people, listen, we got a paycheck, but it ran out on Thursday and we got paid on Friday. Like, I mean, it's not like we had any money.
We were teachers. We weren't like rolling.
And like that was the mindset we had to struggle with too, was where is the time? Where is the money? None of the other stuff mattered. We figured that out.
Unless you convince yourself that you can get past those obstacles, nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my God, we've been chatting for almost an hour.
Oh, have we really?
Time just goes so fast. So before we wrap things up and let everyone get back to their day, I'd love to know what the biggest piece of advice or biggest lesson learned. I mean, we kind of already talked about this a little bit, but if each of you have different ones, what's like your biggest lesson learned or biggest piece of advice for the viewers watching or catching the replay today?
I know what mine is.
Okay.
I just thought of this.
Surprise.
I think the biggest thing I've learned, and especially just because of Jocelyn, is like we have to follow through on one thing, period. You can't try everything and hope something sticks. You can't do this. Like, even in this planning, we went 2 straight days to come up with 3 5-word bullet points. I mean, come on now. Though that's how focused we are right now on what we're doing. And like Jocelyn said with the new domain, and I'm always trying to do like 10 different things. Like we I think you got to pick something and do it and see if it works. It might not. Screw it. It don't matter. Like that's the biggest thing I think I've learned in the last 5 years is follow through is really, really important. So, and
I think that, what I've learned, I mean, so many things, it's hard to boil it down to one, but I would say just the whole time thing, like it's so much more valuable than money. Like I really realize that now. And, if you don't take control of your time, it will take control of you. So time is just so important.
And that does mean sacrificing things off your calendar. We teach our children every single day. My boy Isaac's the other day said, "I hate this rule. Why do you always say this to me?" And he said, because every time something happens and he's like, "I didn't get to do that," we say, if you choose one thing, you lose another. That gets said in our house a minimum of 3 times a day.
There's one thing our children will understand, it's opportunity.
They will understand that because we have learned that so much in the last few years. And I think that most people never realize it because in your day-to-day life, you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. Your boss tells you how to spend your time. Your calendar tells you how to spend your time. So, choose something. Forget the rest. It's okay.
I love it. Simple. And where can everyone find you if they would like to follow you or reach out? And
the best thing to do is we're on social media. We do at FlippedLS on Twitter and Instagram, have a Facebook page, all that good stuff. But I think the best thing is just to go to our podcast. So go to iTunes, type in Flipped Lifestyle, listen to the podcast. We're actually in a great series right now. We took all of the interviews from the author for our book and we're releasing them.
Ooh.
Leading up to the book. So like we literally are in
We started at
childhood, told how we met in college and how I tricked Jocelyn into going to pro wrestling with me. It's an awesome story. Go listen to it. But that one's out right now. And but it's just our journey. We actually just started that series. So check out our podcast over on iTunes or just look us up, Flipped Lifestyle online.
Yay. Oh, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And like I said, the time just literally flew, which it does often happen to do when we catch up with old friends.
That's right.
So we're so honored to have you guys on the show, and I love getting you guys on because we have so many similarities between couple-wise.
Definitely.
There's more of us out there than you think too. The couples are hiding in the shadows. So
we are.
Maybe we can draw them out together.
Let's draw them out.
We're gonna pull them kicking and screaming into the light. So.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching. If you would like to get in touch with Shane and Jocelyn, we'll post up their website and some of their social media in the comments below. And if you are catching us from somewhere other than our Facebook page today, just a heads up, we do have a community for family-focused entrepreneurs, all like-minded group of people, and that is at familyentrepreneur.life.com. So head over there and join us. All right. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
And we hope you have a lovely rest of your day.